Hello, today I'm going to go over how to draw Celtic Spirals. It is a, well, on and off beautiful and rainy day here in Pittsburgh right now. So, you're going to need, let's see, compass. Doesn't have to be a fancy compass. Mine's kind of fancy. Eraser, any kind. Another pencil. You know what? A ruler would probably help. It's not essential because we have graph paper. So we have graph paper. So that's what you're going to need, and you're going to learn how to draw Celtic spirals. Now these are the same techniques I use to make my coloring books. I drew this. And, okay. This is one of the trickier techniques. I don't see a lot of it being done by people that aren't direct copies of things like the Book of Kells, which I have a like pseudo sort of facsimile book here of. So let's see, that's what you need. Graph paper. Go to Incomptech, plain graph paper, just click, use the standard. That's all I did. I didn't add any extra, like I want them yay many apart or something like that. Just get your graph paper. If you're doing this on plain paper, you're going to want a ruler, but you'll see why. It'll help you map things out. And here we go. I'm going to flip the camera around. And let's see. Hello, Mrs. Love. Doing Celtic spirals. There we go. Okay, there's the graph paper. I know this would be easier if you're wide, but every time I try to do these things with it horizontal, it seems to just make the viewer sees the screen like, you know, it's like they're looking at it sideways. So yeah, got your graph paper. Do Celtic spirals. Here is one of my books from Book of Kells. You see all these really pretty spirals they have. So we're just going to learn how to do the basic spirals. It is not too hard to connect them. But, I mean, we'll see. I might actually do some of that. Because this is my coloring book. And the techniques I'm showing you is how I drew all of this. How I drew these. So yeah, is not... Yeah, they have big carpet pages too. Those are always fun. So here we go. Yeah, I'm kind of like hugging my phone on a little tripod, so we'll see. You're gonna take your, well, we need a circle to start, so we'll just take your, there we go. Let's make it easy. Go for something we can separate fairly easily. Let's go with 6 squares. Here, something you can easily separate like in half. So let's go 6 squares with your compass. Now, because I use this compass to do art, it has a fairly hard lead in it, which means it draws very faintly. I do not have any harder spare leads. I don't think that can pop in here. You know what? I think I might. I just realized that. Yeah, there's not much of that little guy left anyway, but I'll keep him. You're gonna go in there. I think my 2B has, yes, I need to replace my 2B lead, so this little guy, oh, that's gonna be perfect. Now you guys can see. Quick art lesson. You have two, when you see art pencils and they're like, 6B and, 2H or whatever, and you're like, what does that even mean? Someone explained a hilarious line. You have, well, HB is just number 2, so HB is not fancy. You have a number 2? Go ahead. You have an HB. Now, I still haven't figured out F, but I know you have 2B and you have 6H. Right, this is plain H. Yeah. H, anything in an H, like a regular H, there's my 6H. or an H, that's a hard pencil. It's hard lead. It's going to give you a very pale line. But if you use a B, it's a softer lead. It'll give you a darker line. So I remember it's hard and boffed. Yeah, I don't know why that sticks. It just does. But yeah, softer lead. And of course, the higher the number, the softer or harder the lead is, which means that the darker the pale line. So I have a 6B in my drawer here somewhere, and that's like black. That's almost like ink black, that thing. And but my 6H is darn near invisible. Yeah, like I can barely see that. I'm pretty sure you might be able to see a little bit, but yeah, a 6H is really hard and it's almost invisible. This is a 2B, which is fairly easy to see. So I'm going to draw the circle again. So hopefully you guys will be able to see it. Oh, I'm going to have to adjust my foot, because this one actually has a point on it. So there we go. We got our circle. First circle, we're doing a little distance of 6 squares from their midpoint. And just for ease for you guys to see, I'm going to put a little... There's my midpoint. Oh, that's my T. That's my T. Yep. So we have our base circle to start with. And you see in Celtic art, they tend to be very... I'm just going to move her to Book of Kells here. Use the source material. You see in Celtic art, sometimes they're not... You see lots of triples. Ooh. It's not just like your classic like yin-yang type symbol. You do see some that are like that, but you see a lot of things where it's like 4 or 3. Lots of 3s. Let's do one of these. Actually, no, I'll just teach you the basic 2 first, and then we'll move on to something complicated like a 3. So let's now go for a simple double Celtic spiral. We're going to dial this down to there, 3. We're going to go halfway for this one. You know what? I mean, it's pretty obvious because you can go halfway. I can go here. I can go here. And that gives you your classic, you know, like, oh, it's a yin-yang. Yeah, you see that in Celtic art. But let's say you want to do something a little bit more complicated than this. I'm just going to get rid of this. Now, bear with me, because 6B does not like to erase very well. But really, that is honestly the basic concept. Except now, so remember we had our 3 squares. Now we're going to make the real winding spiral. We're going to set this roughly. Oh, you know, let's make this slightly different. We're going to put that 2 spaces. 1, 2. The fun thing about spirals is there are and there aren't rules, I guess. It's strange. So you go through here. You can go here. You're like, okay, that's a good base for a double spiral. Now we're going to bring this around to here. Simple maths. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 4. So maybe we need to put our thing in the middle here. And we bring it around. Oh, yeah, it's slightly off. If you're slightly off, that's fine. Can always adjust it. There we go. Close enough. It's hard to see because I'm like, I can't like look right through my camera and see my screen. It's a lot easier for me to like move to the left or the right. as I sort of hug my phone here. There we go. So you find your midpoint on your axis there. This would be the axis. You find your little midpoint because you want that. That's where you want the end of the tail to be. It really helps to think, where do you want to end up? Don't really think about when, after you draw this line, remember we said, well, we're going to have it be this wide. So we decided, so we're like, okay, 4, so we found the center, which was at 2. You know, 2 squares out from the middle, and we made our little lines. So then we went out, so we wanted to put the end here, like the end of this line, we wanted to put it there, so we counted, and we found the middle, and that's where, you know, we stabbed this down, we found our midpoint. And of course you can just copy it to your next one. So if we want our midpoint, if we want our end to be here, if we want our tail, or rather our tail to end up here, so we go swoopy, we can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So we're going to find 5.5 squares. 2, 3, 4, 5 and a halfy squares. Now, rather than draw a line to find out, oh, I'm slightly off on where my little pivot here, my needle leg is, I'm just, there we go. That looks like it to go. So you just continue. And we'll just hop on over. Yeah, tiny adjustment. Yeah, you can make tiny adjustments. And you keep going. You go, woo! And that is a very basic spiral. You can do that and just keep going. I notice in a lot of Celtic spirals, they seem to kind of keep it sort of even. Does that make sense? They seem to keep their widths kind of even until they get down to like the last like half circle for a lot of them. Sometimes they do like a very even fade, I guess. They like to have the width here decrease fairly evenly, but they do tend to do it in this case, or since our axis cuts it in half, it's a half circle. In this case, it maintains its width. Like here, it goes down this half circle. They do tend to have noticed maintain it half their width. Like they maintain their width, and then they'll go down, and then they'll maintain their width, and then they'll go down. Like, that's something I noticed, but some of them do go down very, they do decrease their width rather uniformly. So it kind of depends what source material you're looking at, if you're looking to sort of semi-copy some actual piece of Celtic art. But a lot of them they go down pretty evenly. Or they'll maintain like a width like this. They'll maintain it until like all the way around it has lots of spirals until it gets down to that last bit. And they're like, oh, okay, now we're gonna dial it down. We're gonna start shrinking our little tail. So that looks really cool. That looks nice. Now we've got a regular spiral, but now we've given it a nice long tail. So let's add some little quick decorations, like what you can see in the Book of Kells. One thing they would do, which means they need to wind it down a lot. Sometimes, now this you don't need to be too terribly exact, so it's even, but I'm going to try and stay like, separating these things, these squares into halves. So one thing they would do is they would tend to have either circles in the heads. So this one we're going to make a circle. I like to call these heads, like little tadpoles. This is their head. They would have circles in the heads, or they would have a head that tapered almost like a little dewdrop sort of thing, and they would have a tail that would disappear. So here's how we do that. So a circle, very easy. This one, we're going to have a little tail that disappears. We know this end, it's going to maintain this width here, which you see is roughly half a square. right here is where that tail is going to end, because after that it's going to start, you know, it'll just be a line, so it'll stop roughly right there. So that's sort of our, so we're going to go in half. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, boom, right there. And you're going to find yourself, if you're using your, you know, if you got compass, if you got a compass with a little needle, you're going to find yourself like kind of finding, oh, like the same little holes throughout, and that's normal. So we're going to go from the tail. We always look where we're going to go, where we want to end up. Like any good plan, really, you want to make sure you know where you're going. So I'm going to draw the line, draw our curve. Yeah. Nope, I went over, but that's okay. That means I'll just draw the line down here a bit further. There's a cat scratching the back of my chair. Mara, what are you doing? Mara kitten. She's being cute and silly. She is good at that. Okay, where we go? I think that's right. Nope. So that's 1/2. 1/2. Nope. I was not really paying attention. Double check. Yep. Double check. That's where I want to be. There we go. Looks like I got a little wide here, so I'm going to adjust that. I mean, if you're going to ink this, you can always adjust that. So see, now we've learned how to make, yes, is a very special yin-yang. We've learned how to make our cool teardrop inside decoration. This little, on our little tadpole, and this little tadpole has a circle. Now one other thing they would do, this is going to require you kind of doing some eyeballing. Is we are going to decorate this end here. So they'll have like a little head, and then you'll see it's almost, again, it's like they're doing this little tail. But they'll have like a circle bit for the head. So that's very easy. Or if you don't want to do this full thing, we can show you something you can decorate it. So you do that. And oh, where was I before? I want to end up here. So I want to end up here. I gotta pretend I'm going here, because all we did was have this. So we just gotta pretend we want to end up there. We want this to be one end, but we want to end up here. So see if I can remember where I was before. I'm not doing any counting right now, just because honestly I kind of don't feel like it. That's okay. There we go. There. So pretending we're gonna, we're not actually gonna like put it down, because we don't want to cut that off. We're going to go here and end up down here-ish. Pretty sure that's too far. I also say that's right. So yeah, we're going to pretend to go here. So you see that's 2.5, 2.5, there we go. So we won't put it down here, but we'll put it down right here. And that helps keep our borders nice and even. More or less. And then you're like, oh, that's cool, what else now? To make it really look Celtic-y. Well, here you can do another spiral if you want. And you can change the angle. You can make your axis. Let me see. You can give yourself an axis like this if you want. So that when you draw your little spiral, it's kind of, you know, doing this. Or you can put a little knot in here. Like here, a common thing they would do is they could put knots in. Now this is the knot you know, the classic, like, you know, Triskel knot, or triquetra knot, where it's got the 3 little lobes. Yeah, that's a knot that I've drawn like 5 million times. So I kind of know how to draw it without having to do any guidelines. This is just practice here, but you can totally put little dots in here and make your little graph paper grid and then fill it with knots. So I've done that before. So there we go. So you can throw a knot in there. In here, we can take an example from the Book of Kells. And you see they did this cool little, I kind of call them trumpets. I don't know why they look like little trumpets. They did that. I don't know if you can see, it's kind of like yellow. It's like red on yellow sort of thing. So we can kind of mimic that. And this you might have to eyeball. It looks like they were just kind of going, woo. And again, since I'm not, like, you can eyeball these, it's okay, since I'm not like copying this design in all the different little heads. If you wanted, you could totally draw like a little skeleton line, you know, a little baseline with your compass, and then draw these little arcs on either side of it. If you wanted to. So there you go. We have so weird. We have a little Celtic knot thing, so I'm going to draw on the inside. I'm going to darken that so it was darker on the original. And I'm going to darken the border. Just kind of color it in real quick. So you guys can hopefully see the spiral a little bit better. Now this is another thing too that you can, once you get more practice, you can keep in the back of your brain when you're working on these things. There's this call. Nope. Incoming suspected spam. Nope. Go away. Don't want you. Decline. There we go. Took a few pokes of the button. There we go. As you're thinking ahead, you can think, well, if you want really high contrast, like 2 color or 3 colors, however many colors you want to use, you can say, well, the outline of this guy is going to be one color, the outline of this is going to be another color. If there were 3 or 4 or 5 of these guys, be like, okay, the outline of this will be this color, and there's enough of separation between this guy and his 2 neighbors that I can reuse this color, you know. And you can think about that. So there you go. It's very good, and you can do spirals with 4 or 8s very easily on graph paper. But you're like, well, what if I want to do like 3? And I have what do I do then? Well, graph paper is still very handy because, oh, sorry, it's all tilty. There we go. Again, I'm just going to go out by 6. So they're by 6, so they're roughly the same size. So 6. And again, I'm off center because my camera it's really hard to do this through the camera, and I'm looking at it from an angle. I don't always place the foot right where it needs to be. The little needle. There we go. So there we go. So let's make triples. You see a lot of 3 because if you notice, Celtic art has a lot of triple spirals going on. And that is really common. So I'm going to show you how to do that. You have your axis. Let's use our up axis here. And I put this right here at the top. Here's a little trick. Dividing a circle. Put it where it crosses. Put it where it crosses. Put it where it crosses. And I haven't changed the distance for my legs on my my compass here. All these circles are the same size. You just find an axis. Here, I use this axis. I started there. And there you go. Now you've divided it into 6. So we can do 6 if we want, but now we're going to do 3. So I'm just going to choose my up axis again. And these. This is why you need an eraser. Now granted, once you get good, you don't have to do like all these to find these guys. You could just go here, or you can start at the bottom axis and boom, boom. Top axis. But you get the idea. Now you know how to do 6. So you can choose. So we're going to have to kind of like ignore these others. But that's fine. So let's see, we're going to need, it's going to help. It's going to help us to draw a line. Yeah, I forgot to say you need a ruler or a straight edge. I was thinking a ruler might be handy. I forgot how I often use a ruler. So this is going to be our main axis, is the top. But this is where the graph paper's going to come in handy, because we're going to still be using these measurements and just carrying them over to these other 2 legs. There we go. But as you notice, aside from using the squares already in the paper, I'm not using any like crazy standard unit of measurement sort of thing. Because they wouldn't have had that. It's essentially compass, straight edge. That's not what the monks had. So now we've got axis, axis, axis. Ignore these guys. You know, to make them ignorable, I'm just going to erase them. Yeah, typically I wouldn't even be drawing like these full circles. This is just so you can see like how you can divide the circle. Oh no, phone is getting warm. Some features limited while phone cools. Okay, phone. Well, if I suddenly cut out, you'll know it's because my phone overheated. Whoopsies. Why is that? Facebook's the only thing open. Oh well. Here we go. I have got my 3 lines. Ugh, there's this dust everywhere and it's getting on my hands. There we go. These things, awesome. Just want to say. It's like, cool, so we did Celtic, we did 3. Awesome. Okay. So let's do, so we have a tail. Let's go 1, 2.5 for the top. And we're gonna do. We're gonna get that so it's in the middle there. And we're going to, oh, not quite. Oh, it is so hard to really center this thing. It's such an awkward angle. There we go, much better, much closer to how I wanted it. There we go. There. So we're gonna go 1, 2.5. Now we're gonna copy that. So we're just gonna put this and up, and we're just gonna trust that this is fine. Now, here's where you will make a mistake at some point, because I made this mistake a lot too. I'm pretty sure the monks did. You're going to go like, oh, and I'm going to make it a circle. Wait, they're both kind of, you know, going the same direction. Oh, crap. No, you want to make sure your little tadpoles are all swimming the same way. So to make your little tadpoles all swim the same way, double check. You're going to forget. You're going to mess up. That's fine. I do. You wouldn't be the first. I know many monks probably did and then said something really inappropriate in Irish, probably. You the Irish. So there we go. So now we're going to like first delineate our main swirlies, our little main tadpole bodies. So we've got our little tadpoles, they're all swimming, their heads are all swimming the same way. So now we're just going to finish with the tails. I'm going to make these really short. So I'm going to end here. I can decide if I want the ultimate end will taper to here, which means I would have to work out like here and halfway and then taper all the way down. But these are going to be like little short tadpoles. So this is where I want it to end. I want it to end on the edge here, not in the middle. I want these to be little short guys. Oh wait, no, if I want to be short, they'd end there, which you can do. But, oh, that's right, if it ends here, then this guy will, yeah. Sorry, mixed up. Bleh. Got a little mixed up. Oh, more than a dozen. So I'm going to end up there, which is pretty easy because that's just going to end up, and this is our axis. Now you won't always be on the center of things. This is where it can get tricky. I'm good at kind of guesstimating these, because I won't be quite the center. Usually we have to guesstimate somewhat halfway. There we go. You can always double check. Now see, now I just realized I was thinking I would use this and use this guy to bring it down here. Derp. Leave it to me to do it the hard way. That's okay. So yeah, you go roughly halfway. Here. Bring it down. Yeah, no, halfway. This is where it requires some fine-tuning and adjustment. Yeah, it's like halfway. Should roughly do it. I'm pretty sure the monks did this too. There's probably a lot of, close enough. Probably a lot of close enoughs. Yeah, there we go. That's good. So yeah, that's kind of halfway. That's a little bit more than halfway. Like that would be halfway, but it's almost like, it's not even quite 3/4. This is where it can get tricky. But just use your judgment. Eyeball it a little if you have to. When you go to the inking phase, you may have to do a bit of fudging, but it's okay. It will still look good. Made a whole book of 35 big spirals. Trust me. There's fudging and it looks fine. There we go. There. Now we've got 3 with relatively short tails. Now, what do you do with the heads? Now, some of these, like we see in the Book of Kells, like, you know, direct inspiration from these guys, we see they have 3, but they've got these extra little tails going around, which you can do that easily. If you look at their axis right there, that would really just be you changing the size of your little head there. So you can add these little cool black swirly bits around, almost as like a background to your little tadpoles if you wanted. And it would be fairly simple. And it would require fudging. Just FYI. It would require a little bit of fudging to get them here. And honestly, when I did those in the book, I just freehanded them. I just like made an arc that looked really good that I liked, and I copied it. And it worked just fine. I just did that by eye. But it helped though, because I'm like, well, I went to the top of this and I said, well, I want it to be like that thick. I made sure I copied that. And then I just drew my little arcs, and then I could have, and then you color them in, and you have your cool, sweet little black lines like they had in there, which is cool. But another thing you see in Celtic art, which is really neat, I don't think there's an example on that. Well, there is, but it's like these big. Is they had things that were like little. Oh, what country is it? Is it Korea? Where he has like the little tadpoles on the flag. Looks so cool. You see that sometimes martial arts stuff too. Easy. I take a drink, which is cool. So we're gonna do that. What you're gonna do, again, more fudging now that you've kind of blocked out your space, is I'm gonna make like a little round, give them a little round head. I'm gonna give these guys round heads, which means I'm gonna dial you all the way down to like size 2, maybe, using my axis again. Maybe 2. We'll see if that works. So rather than draw a line, I want it here. Usually they meet this. Now, see, that's not working. So if I want that to be my center, I can put that here. Like, you kind of want the edge of your little tadpole head to touch this guy. But that's not really a circle because it goes beyond. So we're going to have to make this a little bit smaller. Or a bit bigger, and we'll bring him down. We can't bring him down here because that's the very middle. So we're going to go right there. Roughly a quarter. Again, like I said, there's rules, there are, but there aren't. There's going to be some futzing and fudging of things involved to make it work. And that is 100%. Okay. There's some fudging involved. I think that would work. I think that does. That works. There we go. That works. So I found a way to fudge it so it looks good, and it works. And again, when you ink, you can fix things, but don't make a full circle. Let's go like, well, we can make a very faint line if we pull back. Let's just kind of keep it in our head that we're going to be roughly here-ish. We're going to be making another arc. So we start it here, the outside, go on our line. Yeah, compared to not work, where it's like, you do this and you copy this and there you go. This is kind of like the land of chaos. But you can do a lot with just fudging. And you can actually mathematically do all this. It's just the graph paper is not terribly fine. You can math it all out. Because I have. But you can also do really nice spirals just by fudging. Oh wait, ooh, see, look, I was going to make a mistake. I was going to start here. Look at that. See? Mistakes. Everyone makes them and it's okay. So I got that. Which, oh man, isn't that starting to look cool? Remember, we want to have this line be kind of light. Now let's use our axis, but we're not going to draw this line here. get our cool center, almost biohazardy looking symbol. It's going to be on this axis. Let's choose this crossing point. We want it to end here in the middle. Or no, we want it to end here. We want the arc to go from here to here. We want the needle to go somewhere on this center line. Well, this vertical line here. So let's just try that one. There is a lot of fudging involved. Or you can just use a ruler. But, I mean, the monks really didn't have rulers. But you can. You have a ruler, and if you want to use it, you go right ahead. You are 100% allowed to do that. I'm just trying to use vague, I've noticed, I don't know if you've noticed, but roughly vague 1/2 and 1/4 of squares has worked. So again, there is math to it. There is math. It's just a little more chaosy than other math you may be used to. So yeah, there we go. So we're at the top. At the very top here, I will turn my work a bit so it might be easier for you to see. We're at the top. That's where I wanted to end up. Wait, no. I was going to make another mistake. I need to be here. Ooh, not right. See, look at that. But you know what? I think I'm just going to use that. I just want to be here. I'm at the halfway point of this square. So from the center point, I'm 1.5 squares up. And I'm right there. And I'm just going to let this fall where it may. There. That's where the tail is. I have decided that is where the tail is. But yeah, so this goes there. This goes there. Which means that's roughly 1.5 squares. And I'm just gonna go boom, which is completely another thing. If you know again where you want to end up, and you don't really care about this, go ahead. You can do that. That is valid. That's part of, admittedly, that is part of the organic beauty of Celtic art. And you're like, whoa, this looks like a big mess. Because it does. You're 100% correct. It looks like a giant mess. But now, we've got a really cool, I'm just going to color this in. Now, typically Celtic art, they might make a tiny little circle here. And then, let's see, what else have I seen them do? They could decorate the insides, but usually they put like a little circle. And make some little... So let's just color this bad boy in here. That looks cool. Doesn't that look... I mean, that alone looks really cool, but... Which you could keep. I mean, if you didn't want to do these little bladey bits coming off. Which, I mean, it's my aesthetic. So it's more my aesthetic. Why wouldn't you want to? But if you just want to keep these little whippy bits and then decorate the inside, you go ahead. But this is if you want to add the blades. These always look like little blades, especially when you draw this and then you've got this. They look like blades. It looks like a Klingon weapon or something. It looks very sci-fi right now. It looks very sci-fi. So you've got this. And now you can decorate the interior however you like. You make circles. You can put a knot in. Or, another thing they would do is they would kind of continue the spiral. So you're like, oh, we can make a little spiral within a spiral. So let's see, we've got I'm just going to kind of decide. So we sort of have that line there. I'm just sort of decide what's my new midpoint for the spiral going to be. It's not going to be there because that's not the midpoint. This side it's going to be down below, and it's going to be halfway. That's my new midpoint. And I'm just going to decide that, because some of the spirals are not beautifully mathematically even. You will notice this if you look real close. Sometimes they are not mathematically even. Let's see. This is where I would break out a ruler to do something a little bit more fancy. Yeah, let's see. I am just going to use this midpoint, and I'm going to decide the head of my spiral is going to be that big, and since everyone's going this way, it's just going to go this way. There's the head of my spiral. So let's say I want to end up here. Make a little mark. Oh, there we go. Oh, come on. There. Turn my work. The foot of my tripod is actually like on the paper, so if I turn the paper, I have to like adjust everything. So let's want to go here. So I need an arc that goes from here to here. Again, this is where you can typically just actually math it out and find your midpoint. Typically you would, but now I'm just going sort of fudge it because honestly, I've done it a lot. This is where I practice. I can do that, but you can just totally like fudge and find your midpoint. You can fudge your midpoint. You know what I've decided? I want the spiral. It's not to be the head. And guess what you can do? You can actually fudge it. You can fudge this with enough practice. So I'm just going to use that. There we go. I'm going to bring that in a little bit, and I'm just going to like say it's like that. There. You can fudge it and it will still look nice. You can do that. That is a thing you can do. Slight miscalculation. Typically you want your spirals to be, as they go down, to get thinner. So slight miscalculation on my part, but that's okay because we can fudge it some more. There. You can fudge a spiral. And even in the this book, Celtic Art, he has a section on spirals. One way he says is you can draw your circle. You can sort of semi-freehand them. So you can draw your circle. Because I have this, I'm just going to draw a circle. Who cares? No idea how big this is. I can see my little center point. You can kind of like separate it. Let's say we do that. And you can draw your own midpoints if you want. So yeah, I'm just going to do that and go draw your arc, center point, midpoint, kind of draw your arc. That looks good. Draw your arc. Draw your center point. Draw your center point. So a good way you can get those tails that gradually get skinnier. Oh, that was kind of a crappy line. Yeah, draw your center point, and then you can decide to end. So that's the fast and dirty. I drew these, and then you can just kind of draw a little whatsies. So that's the fast and dirty, and then you can fill it in with whatever. There you go. Draw your circle. And you can even do off center. If you want your center to be, it doesn't have to be here. It can be here. In which case it's not a center, but that can be where you do your things. Because that's a thing the Celts did. And then this would just have not as long tail. If you want, you could just bring it down here. And then you can fill this with other things, like a knot. Bring this way. Because look, you still got an axis. You've still got an axis. And then you could fill this with whatever. Yeah. There. Find your center point. Find your midpoint. Find your midpoints. Find your midpoints to decrease your tail. So I do see a lot of Celtic art where they do maintain the length of the tail until you can tell they kind of like, okay, well this is the round, we're going to start making it skinny. But there's also a lot, where it can decrease gradually. You find your axis, draw your line, decide that. Or if you're doing the triple, I know this isn't perfectly accurate, but close enough. Find your axis. Find your midpoint. Find your midpoint. Midpoint. Or just decide to end it. That's perfectly allowed. End it. End it. And if you want, you just do that. Just kind of, I always call that like you're cutting off the sharp bits. There. Simple, simple. And decorate at will. Decorate at will. They did these little like trumpety things. They did all sorts of fun little decorations that you see. Lots of like putting in like a circle, and then they would do this as a decoration. Like especially like again in the middles or like here. They would put a little circle. And they would decorate it like that. You see those. I tend to call you see a lot of tails get sort of this treatment. They look like trumpets to me, so you have trumpets. And again, they would sometimes instead of putting a nice circle, like a full, like a real circle, they would sort of like combine trumpets or whatever. So yeah, they would like combine their trumpets. Oh, I know I used a lot of them in the book. Oh yeah, they would do this other thing too, where they would have a tail. You'd have your tail, and they would put like a dot, like roughly there-ish, like not exactly in the middle, but this is sort of a use your judgment, what looks nice, and they would draw. Wait, no, that's the trumpet again. Oops, wrong one. So you get that, and they would separate it, and then add trumpets. So you would have this, which is cool because you want a shade, you need a cool 3D effect, but then they would add little trumpets right there. So it's like you get 6 little trumpets all coming together. You see that a lot too. So anyway, here's one in my book. These are a lot of really common little treatments. If you see, you can see my axes, and there's a little knot thrown in. You can see my axes. Where's the axis on all of these? That's like a fun game to play. This is taken from a cathedral, obviously. Yeah, you can see, if you look, you're like, there's the axes. Oh, yes. That is a good way to study. Look at the books and find the axes. And this is just as simple as putting two circles next to each other. You see my axes, and then making them connect. That is very simple. You put the two circles next to each other. Draw a line. Say this is where you guys are going to connect. That one had a vertical axis, so we're going to maintain it. And let's see, we're going to, again, you kind of have to know, we're going to put a trumpet. Know where you end up. So we know our little, let's just say we're going to do, we're not going to hit our midpoint. I'm just going to select there. 2, 2. It doesn't have to be 3. You could add, you could stack another on there and make it 3. I mean, sorry, I mean 2. You can stack a number. You can stack 4. You can stack whatever and just connect them however you like. This is a short one if you want. So yeah, this will go around. Down. Oh, wait, no, this can connect. Like I said, we can cut this one off, completely go, but that would leave an open bit here, which is fine. You're like, that can go. Do some fudging. Okay, definitely some fudging happening. So yeah, that's a very, or like I said, we can do here. Find your midpoint. Find your midpoints. Find your midpoints. If you want this to be the end here, you can then connect it. That can just kind of taper off. So yeah, that's, just put two circles next to each other. Axis. Common infills. So let's see. There we go. I hope that helped. I know I kept saying find your midpoint. That's what you do. You find your midpoint. Grab a ruler if you need to. But even when you're doing this, when only one of the line on your graph paper is really useful, that's still a very useful line. It's still quite useful. And where's the other one that we were using? I can't find the first one. Oh well. It's somewhere. Maybe the wind took it. Anyway, I hope that explained a little bit of how to do Celtic spirals. And you can throw knotwork on the inside. You can, when you're doing those spirals, you can just like pull off and add an animal foot or a head, and like boom, you've got a critter. It's kind of fun. And you can throw, if you do the more cutout, if you do one, you decide not to like decorate the interior, but do more of a cutout. It's like this one has a decorated interior, but if I decided to just kind of, you know, make that into a border, you can throw a knot right on top of it. And I found design-wise it's helpful. If you have a spiral, this has 3 little tadpoles in it, a knot with 3 main components that repeat placed on it. I mean, you might have to decide how you want to turn it. But if you design a knot on top of it, it looks really nice if you maintain the same ratios, like three little tadpoles in there, 3 main portions of the knot. That looks nice. And you can interlace them within the borders of your spiral, and that looks really cool. I can't really think of any extant examples where they did that. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised because it looks cool. We know we see a lot of zoomorphics where the knotwork goes through the animals, and the animals are spirals, or they have little spiral decorations thrown on them. So yes, I hope it helped. I hope you've learned something, or yeah, I just hope you learned something. I hope you have fun, and if you have any questions, tag me in the comments. See you later. Thanks.